Hey, yo, peace, peace. This your man, Judge, man. Coming right back at you, man, with some of that real talk real fast, man. I know I've been putting these videos out, man, but I'm trying to get back in the habit of doing these things here, man. Now, lately, I've been putting out a lot of stuff talking about symbolism, you know what I'm saying, and breaking things down and showing you little things, numbers, and all this stuff, and how they affect us. But I've been doing it this week because for one thing, it's been hitting my spirit to talk about this here. I don't know why. It just is. So I got to roll with it. And another thing is that, man, I'm doing this here, man, to get us, uh, to put us in a situation in which I can talk about these things right here, sigils, and the effects of them. Now, I'm going to have to take you back a little bit to how things work or how things once were. Now, in the beginning, we all know that the mother, father, God became aware of itself and came into existence. And it existed in etheric form. And then the mother, father, God, it began to separate from itself so it would have someone or something to atone with or communicate with. Now, at this time, these separate gases, these conscious gases, they were coming from the oneness and going out into the universe, and they were building upon themselves as well. But nevertheless, there was a form of communication, and that first form of communication was sound. They began to speak in tone. Now, let me give you an example, show you an example of how sound affects matter. Now, what you should be looking at is a sound generator that is hooked to a plate. Now, they're putting sand on this sound generator, and if you notice, different shapes and symbols are coming into existence. Now, what they're doing is they're changing the octave or changing the sound of the tone, and it's beginning to morph into something else. Now, this happens repeatedly. Now, this is how things are in existence, bringing forth the universe. Everything in existence is singing its own verse. And that's why we call this whole thing the universe, because it's a sacred song going on that's bringing about all these things into existence. Now, let's go back again. Now, I was talking about when the beings exist in an etheric form, they were nothing but gas and they communicated with sound. But then as time went by, they became known as light beings. They learned to put the switch on. And then they became these light beings. And then as time went by, I'm assuming, because I don't remember being there, but I really don't remember being there, but I know I existed in that form as well. But as time went by, they continued to exist and or communicate with tones. But when they became light beings, something unique happened. They began to communicate with each other with sacred geometry. They would make these uh, what would you call it? They would make these symbols and they would communicate like that. I'm looking around because I wish I had something that could show you ancient Hebrew, because ancient Hebrew is known as the fire language. It's written as if it's flame when you see it when it's written. And I'm assuming that they either communicated with those geometric symbols, or they communicated with the geometric symbols of Sanskrit. It's one or the other. I do not know. I do not know everything, but it was one or the other. So they would flash these symbols and they would communicate. Now, as time went by, and these some of those gaslight beings who were known as angelic ones, as they descended down and separated themselves from the Mother, Father, God, and came out of the holy heavens and started to go to the seven gates that brought them down to the level of order, they began to manifest themselves in physical form. Now, while they were still down here in physical form, before they became physical on this plane here, when they came here to manipulate and help assist in the creation of this planet we have here, before they became physical beings, they were still, some were still etheric and some were still light beings. But nevertheless, like I said, they were still communicating either in tone or by symbols. Now, as time went by, they became flesh beings. Now, when they became these flesh beings, they still knew the sacred language. They still know how to vibrate the vocal cords into certain tones and still manipulate things in existence as you do today. And they still understood although they were not light beings, but they still understood how to draw certain symbols the certain sacred symbols, and the certain sacred symbols would still affect the outer world. It's just like when you were looking at that plate and the sand was being manipulated by sound. At the same time, while the sand was being manipulated by sound, you saw the effects of the sound. But you seeing the symbol, it still has the same effect behind it. So that's how, and that's why people get away with doing sacred symbols, the keys of Solomon. Remember, Solomon was a very wise king, and instead of asking for longevity and asking for more wealth, Solomon, he asks for wisdom so that he can guide his people in a righteous way. So the wisdom that God said unto Solomon, God said, well, you know what? That was dope for you. You know what I'm saying? You ain't asked me for money. You ain't asked me for fame or none of that stuff because you already have those things. You asked me for wisdom. And being that you asked me for something like that, I'm going to grant it to you. Voila. So what he did was he gave him the sacred symbols to manipulate both good and evil. See, there's nothing satanic about this. This is just old technology. This is old organic technology that someone has scared us away from. And now now it's returning back to us. You can accept it or you can negate it. It's up to you. Nevertheless, let's continue. Now, these sacred symbols. Now, symbolism. Symbolism is just, how would I say? It's putting together certain images to activate or to remind you of certain outcomes or certain desires in existence. You can use anything for a symbol. You know what I'm saying? But most symbols, you can deal with symbols that already have meaning, or you can create your own symbols. Now, when you create your own symbols, because like when you're dealing with sigils and you're dealing with making your own sigils, the making of your own sigils is an art that some refer to as, I hate to talk about this here, but this is real talk real fast, and this is El Judge, and I have to cover all aspects of things. When you make your own sigils and give them your own meaning, this is a form of what they would call chaos magic, coming up out of the lineage of one who we call Aleister Crowley and Madame Blavatsky. You know, the thieves, the ones who stole the sacred science from Pastor Beverly Randolph, who lived right here in Toledo, Ohio, not too far from me. They stole his information and they put it to work and they put their own thing on it. But I digress. When you're dealing with writing your own sigils, what you're doing is you're putting your intention inside of a piece of paper and creating your own thing that you want to reflect back out to the world and bring and magnetize certain things into your existence, or programming your subconscious mind to use your magnetism to bring certain things into existence. But this is the thing about that. Say you you're going through hard times and you want to create more wealth for yourself. So you say to yourself, so I'm going to create this symbol right here, and this symbol is going to bring me wealth. And and he said, and you're thinking about how this symbol is going to work. But deep down in the back of your subconscious mind, you're also thinking of the reason why you need to have this symbol. And the reason why you need to have this symbol is because of poverty. See, now, as you make that symbol, sometimes the subconscious mind, the thoughts of the subconscious mind, that thought of poverty ends up being that which what that symbol projects onto this existence. So sometimes it's safer for you to use symbols that have already been placed into certain patterns, and they already have their meaning. So when you pick if you go to the keys of Solomon and you pick a certain one, you know automatically what that means, and it means that and nothing else. So then you take that symbol and you place it. And a lot of times, if you're articulate, you can draw and copy that. But a lot of times you can just copy and print it and then paste it on the wall. But not just do that. When you print it, write down the meaning of it, and write it down to a simplest form, in a form in which you can relate to, so you know exactly what it means, and place it in a spot to where you will see it every day and every night every day when you wake up, and every night before you go to sleep. So then that way, that is what it is, and you don't have to worry about anything else. Copy. Let's continue. And I'm sorry, this isn't a real talk real fast, but how do you explain something like this here real quick? But anyway, man, the keys of Solomon, man, it's a very good thing to use. Now, symbolism is very good to use, man, because like I said, when you're dealing with symbolism, accept the symbols for what they are. Now, you can give them your own meaning if your own meaning is coming through a pure thought with no corruption. Other than that, I suggest that you find the true meaning of the symbol and you use it for what it was meant. But anyway, man, this is your man L Judge. Tried to drop a bombshell on you. Tried to keep it real quick, real fast, but 13 minutes beats 13 hours. I forgot to say something very important. When you're dealing with sigils, and you're dealing with well, basically, when you're looking at a sigil, when you're looking at one of these, what you're really looking at is energy coming out of a portal. Because remember, I was speaking about how the Mother, Father, God, when it became aware of itself and it started to communicate, it spoke with its own its spoken tone. Now, the tone was coming out of the abyss. It was coming out of the something, nothing, nothing, something. It is coming out of a portal. Basically, that's what it is. And remember, when you were looking at those symbols, when you were looking at the symbols in that sand, when the sand was changing into different symbols, you were looking at sound. That's what the sound was looking like. And I tell you, again, when you're looking at these here, I don't like showing them too much because they have effects. When you're looking at those, you're looking at the physical counterpart of sound coming out of a portal. Now, just like when you're speaking, you have sound coming out of the invisible affecting the throat, affecting your throat, and vibrating, coming out of this portal right here. Yeah, and then when you're looking at sound, it's coming through this portal right here. So it has an effect. Now, you may think that shapes do not affect you. Now, any young man, well, hell, goes for both men and women. If you're a man and you see a young lady and she has the perfect shape, you know what I'm saying? You know, you'd be like, damn, it has an effect on you. It may affect you even further in further ways, which I'm not going to mention. And the same thing for a woman. If a woman sees a young man and he's shaped in a certain way that she's attracted to, it affects her as well. All of these angles or angels have effects on the physical existence. But anyway, man, I hope I gave you enough. Maybe I'll go in on this some more one day. Peace and blessings. I'm out. Oh, and don't forget, I got these charms right here. Yeah, I put them on chains now. Yeah. Got something new coming to you. I'm out.